Hello students, this is Dr. Kesari Shukla. Today I am going to start one of the most important topic of history of English literature, that is 18th century. You know that 18th century is also known as neoclassical age. Sometimes this is called the age of Pope, age of satire, Augustan age of Johnson. But whenever we call it from different names, so behind it some reason is there. Students, actually 18th century just started from the age of Queen Anne. You know that when William, the King of England, he died. In the last video I have discussed about the Restoration period. And after the Restoration period, in the succession of some other kings and queens, finally William, the husband of Mary, became the King of England. And when he died, so the King of Spain, who has already enmity with England, he attacked on England. And this incident in the history of England is known as Spanish succession. And in this crucial condition, in very hurry and worry, Princess Anne, who was the sister of Mary, she was made the Queen of England. And from this period, England started establishing. And you know that the time period of Queen Anne is the golden period of England. And from the reign of Queen Anne, 18th century starts. And if we come to literary field in the history of English literature, so the first half of 18th century is known as Augustan age, and also known as age of Alexander Pope. From 1702, this was the time when Queen Anne just enthroned on the throne of England. So from 1702 to 1745, when she died, this time span is known as Augustan age, also neoclassical age, and also the age of Pope, the age of satire. And after 1745 to 1798, 1798, you must have in your mind that it was the publication year of Preface to Lyrical Ballads, when Romantic age was started with that. So from 1745 to 1798, this age, the second half of 18th century, is known as the age of Johnson. But now, dear students, I want to start the neoclassical age. Students, actually, when we start neoclassical age, so we have to mention a bit about Restoration period. You know that Restoration period was from 1660 to 1688, and it was the period of Charles II in England. Students, actually, the impact, the impression of classicism was also there in the reign of Charles II, because you must have in your mind John Milton was there. This was the age of John Dryden. It was the age of John Milton. So you know that so many literary artists, so many poets who were there even before Charles II, So they have a different opinion about Charles II. But when the reign of Charles II started, their opinion changed. Even you know that John Dryden, who was the follower of Oliver Cromwell, he has always appreciated Oliver Cromwell when Oliver Cromwell was in the parliament, and under his leadership and rulership England was going on. So he was great appreciator of Oliver Cromwell. But when the age of Oliver Cromwell comes to an end, so he became the follower of Charles II. Only the man who didn't change himself, it was John Milton, and he remained on his principle of a puritanistic approach. So he was the only man. And remaining writers of Restoration period, they have started writing according to Charles II. You know, I want to discuss the literary trend of that period. Students, this was the period, very remarkable period this was, because this was the period when theaters were reopened. It was the effort of Charles II कि again the age of drama came in England. Theaters were reopened, and you know well that he was a very lavish kind of king. He has 14 children, but all are illegitimate. That this was the reason that after his death, from his dynasty, no king was there in England. So he was very lavish, and he was fond of girls. He was fond of women. He was fond of luxury. He was fond of lavishness, and he was fond of art and literature also. That's why the theaters were reopened, and the prime concept of literature was at that time. So it was a pomp and show. It was a vulgarity in the literature. It was the description of women, the harlots type of women, the prostitute of type of women, love affair, the imaginary love affair. So these kinds of concepts were there, and this was the time when he reminded students that actually the age of Alexander Pope, it was just the opposite thought of this age. That's why I am just making you clear that in the in Restoration period, especially comedy was there, and literary artists were just concerning over the comedies, because Charles II liked comedies very much, because it was full of fun and vulgarity. And you know that in the reign of Queen Elizabeth and even in Jacobean age, women were not allowed to take part in dramas. They could not act as an actress. So this binding was also just removed from the theater. Charles II allowed that if any woman character is there in the play, so only woman character will play it on the stage. Actually, in Elizabethan period and also in Jacobean period, when James I was there, so the role of woman was played by men. Men was decorated as women, as you know, in Nautanki. So all these all these changes were made in Restoration period. Now in Restoration period, one thing was also there, that John Milton was there, who was following the classical approach, the kind of approach what Homer and Virgil has set for the literature. So all that has been followed by John Milton in his Paradise Lost, in Paradise Regained, and other creations. What he has just there under his pen, so he has followed the classical principles, the set fundamentals of ancients, what has been set in Greece and Rome, even in Italy. So all those have been followed. That's why this is an age of classicism, and this age, which is the age of John Milton, is also known as classical age. So you can say that the initial part of neoclassical age is there. Its root is there in restoration period. That's why I have just discussed it here. Now students, we are moving in 18th century. Now the first half of 18th century, from the starting of the reign of Queen Anne to 1745, this is called Augustan age. Now the question comes that why this age is called Augustan age. Students, this is an age which is the golden age, again I am telling you, of English literature. And its major reason was this, that Queen Anne has motivated, has encouraged literary artists. She has encouraged the free concepts, free ideas of the poets and other literary artists. And one thing is very remarkable, that England has become now a rich country. Its major reason was this, that England has started taking taxes from several other countries who were just using the costs of the ports of England. They have to pay taxes, and by this gain of taxes, England has become a rich country, and he was in position to just invest a lot even on literature. So, and you know that this was the time when the colonization was started. England has started just conquering other nations also, and the root of Great Britain was there in this period. You know that earlier England was there, Britain was there, and when other countries like Wales, like Wales, Netherlands, Holland, these countries, when just came with England, it was known as Great Britain. And in the last, in 18th century, Scotland also included with Britain. So in the last, this can be asked in the examination, when Scotland was added in Great Britain, it was 18th century. Okay, now come again here. So this period was a very prosperous period of England, especially in wealth, especially in richness, and it started just developing colonies in different countries. So the richness what the England has obtained, its impact was also on literature. So students, I was just dealing with why this was the reason it was called an age of August. It was why it was called the Augustan age. Students, its major reason was this, that actually Augustus was the king of Rome once, and this was the period when Homer and Virgil, even Dante, like great literary artists, has made and made a great impact in literature. They have well established literature in the reign of Augustus in Rome. So this was the golden period of English literature. Not only in English literature, but the all-round development, all-round growth was there in the age of Augustus in Rome, especially in literature. Especially the classical artists were just produced, and they have produced remarkable, excellent creation in that in those days. That's why this age, which is also very productive in the field of literature, so critics has compared the this half of the 18th century, the first half part of the 18th century is known as Augustan age. As you know, that if someone has made great impact in tennis as Sania Mirza, so you can say that Sania Mirza is the Sachin Tendulkar of tennis. Means Sachin Tendulkar is an ideal, as Augustan age in Rome was an ideal age. especially in growth and development in several fields, especially in English literature, especially in literature. The classical aesthets were just there. What kind of impact they have made? The same kind of impact was made there in the age of the first half of 18th century. That's why this age is called the age of Augustan-like Augustan age. Now, the second thing which is remarkable, why this age is called the neoclassical age. Actually, in this period, Alexander Pope, like great poets were there who has followed the certain principles of classics. They have left the ideas of vulgarity, what was there in Restoration period. Useless kinds of concepts were not accepted by Alexander Pope, like poets in neoclassical age. They have followed the principles of classics, what has just given by uh, Homer, given by Virgil, even by Dante, and even they have followed the principles of Italian literature. What the Italian artists have said, the fundamentals of literature, they all have been just followed by the men, the literary artists of the first half of 18th century. That's why this age is called neoclassical. The important thing that why this is neoclassical. Actually, the classical concepts which were just said by Homer and Virgil, like great artists, even Sophocles, like great artists of ancient time in Rome, Italy, and Greece. Actually, those concepts were followed by neoclassical artists, neoclassical poets, but they have just chosen the different concept. The idea was the same as the classics have. They have followed the style of classics. They have imitated the ideas, imitated the principles of classicals, but in new way. The subject matter is different. That's why this is classical, but a new kind of classical. That's why this is called neoclassical age. Students, this is an age of prose and reason. The artist of this period had just emphasized himself not on logical thoughts. They have just concentrated themselves only on logical thoughts, only on reasonable thoughts. Spontaneity was not there. Whatever is coming in your mind, you are supposed to just write down on the paper. You have to follow some certain principles of classicism, and on the standards of classicism, you have to just write your creation. You have to use your reason, you have to use your logic, and in the creation of the first half of 18th century, all the principles of not only classical age is followed, not only the classical poets and classical artists were just imitated, but they have made well use of their reason, well use of logic, and this is an excellent age of prose also. Students, this age has been very productive age, especially in the field of prose and reason. Later on I will discuss over, but the most remarkable poet of this period was none other but Alexander Pope. You all have all kinds of idea about Alexander Pope. You have already studied his Rape of the Lock. Student, in 1688 he was born, but the fruit of his great literary art was just started coming in the first half of 18th century. You know that he was a master of satire. I want to add here that Alexander Pope could not study well in school because his companions used to laugh at him because he was, just hunchbacked, that you call poobad. He was not very good looking. He was very ugly. Scars were on his face. Only 4 feet height, undersized dwarf. Physically, he was very ugly. And once he has written, when he was asked that when you are in a hall, even in coffee house, the people used to just go from there. People just frightened of, they are scared of. He says, yes, I am happy that people just scared of, people just frightened of me, and they don't frightened of God. I am greater than the God. So these kinds of satires he always used. And one very remarkable incident is here about his life, how his life has been converted in his literature. So once he proposed a woman who was actually an aristocratic lady. He fell in love. The love was one sided. He proposed that I want to marry you. But she not only just negated him, she not only disapproved the proposal, but she laughed at Alexander Pope. And Alexander Pope became so angry that he just made a very remarkable satire on her life, an elegy of an unfortunate lady, very remarkable creation, an elegy of an unfortunate lady, and this is an excellent satire on that lady. So this kind of art Alexander Pope has, he can make satire on anyone. If anyone just come on his target, so definitely he will be just written next day. Alexander Pope has never left anyone. If anybody had just tried to pinch him, so definitely he was an object of his writing. Students, he is called the dictator of his age, Compton Ricketts, a great writer of history of English literature, Compton Ricketts. Compton Ricketts has said about Alexander Pope that he is the dictator of his age. And also about Samuel Johnson, the same kind of statement Compton Ricketts has made, that he is the dictator of his age. Students, Alexander Pope and Samuel Johnson both are called the dictator of his age. And the remarkable thing about Alexander Pope, that he has used closet heroic couplet. Now you can understand, now you can think that why sir is using closet heroic couplet. He can use only heroic couplet. Students, actually heroic couplet was employed by John Dryden in a Restoration period, and it was well utilized by Alexander Pope in this Augustan period, in neoclassical age. Actually, the difference between heroic couplet and closet heroic couplet is this, that in heroic couplet, in the couplet, this is not necessary that all kinds of thought what the poet want to just put is completed in that. But in closet couplet, only in 2 lines, the thought what the poet is objecting, that is put. Means no 3 line is just needed there to study, to read. If you read 2 lines, so definitely you will understand what the poet want to say. Means from introduction to conclusion, everything is there in 2 lines. So these kinds of couplets were just employed by Alexander Pope in 18th century neoclassical age. And the same kind of couplet he has used in his one of the greatest creation, that Rape of the Lock. Actually students, Rape of the Lock was just based on the real incident which took place in the life of Alexander Pope. Actually there was 2 families there, and from one family Lord Peter was there, and from the another family Arabella Fermor was there. And in a party, Lord Peter had just cut the hair of the lock of Arabella Fermor, and a strong dispute was created in these 2 families. Now to just solve the problem of this dispute, Carroll, the friend of Alexander Pope, he has requested Alexander Pope that write down some creation. You have an art of creating very excellent of creation. Now I am requesting you that write down some this kind of creation which can solve this. And in that in 1712, I think it was the period. Yes, 1712. He has written two cantos on the life of Peter, and on the life of what kind of relation was there, what kind of dispute was there, what kind of aristocratic family ego was there in between Lord Peter and Arabella Farmer. So he had just discussed, but this creation, this literary piece made Arabella Farmer very angry, and she made a strong complaint against Alexander Pope. Why has you just made my personal life public? Why have you written this creation? And now Alexander Pope has just applies, just made apology, said sorry, and just convinced Arabella Farmer that actually my target was not you, but I have tried to just convey the what kind of approach, what kind of life is there in aristocratic ladies, what kind of life is being just lived by aristocratic family ladies, what kind of ego issues are there. So all these things I have tried to just mention, and I wanted to satirize it. That's why I have written this. And if you permit me, so I will use some special kind of theory in it, and I want to add some other cantos here. And Arabella Farmer has just accepted the proposal, and in 1714, Alexander Pope has just added three other cantos in it. Now the five cantos are there, and students, he has just used a special kind of theory, Rosicrucian theory, in which the spirits, the description of spirits is there. You know that our body is made of five elements: Chitjal, Pavak, Gagan, Samir, as you have studied. But the spirit of Gagan was not there. Only four spirits were there: the spirit of soil, spirit of water, uh, spirit of air, spirit of fire. Those four spirits were just employed in Rosicrucian theory, which is responsible for the character of man. कि the combination of all these elements decides the character of a man. If the fire factor, the fire element is in more amount in a man, so he will be the man of some angry kind of man, some furious kind of man. So all these kinds of theories what he has studied in Rosicrucian, so he has employed it in Rape of the Lock. This is very excellent creation. And students, sometimes it can be asked that what was the character which was added in 1717? Yes, in Rape of the Lock in 1717, Alexander Pope has added the character of Clarissa. Clarissa's character has been added in the last. So this is all about Alexander Pope. I have tried to just make you clear. He has just written so many other creations like Essay on Man, Essay on Criticism, an epistle written to Dr. Arbuthnot, and all are just concerning about the social life, the kind of life which was going on in those days, the aristocratic families, what kind of life, what kind of fashion, what kind of pomp and show was there in that age. So all these things were made clear by Alexander Pope in his creations. And other important characteristic of neoclassical is that neoclassical age was an age of pomp and show, an age of glamour, an age of city life. City life was the prime concern, means the literary artists, the poets, and other literary artists who were just representing 18th century first half, the Augustan age neoclassical is, they have used the city life, the description of city life, the description of aristocratic life. They have not used the rustic life, the village life, the common life of man was not discussed there. They have discussed the life of cities. I have already made that this was an age of prose and reason, and except it, emotion was not there. The passion and emotion has no place in the literary creations of this age. So all these things I have made clear about neoclassical age, and now the first half I have just completed, which is called neoclassical age of Augustan age, the age of Pope. It was the age which was the age of satire. Alexander Pope had just used satire as the weapon to improve the society. He is also the chronicler of its age. So all these things what is there important in the first half in Augustan age I have made clear. The second half I will discuss in the next video. Thank you my dear students. Thank you very much.